Hey guys, this is Monte, and we got a special. Yes, a final closing tutorial on the peak and RMS. But before we start, make sure you follow me on my YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and SoundCloud. Lots and lots of information you can find there, so make sure to tune in. In this tutorial, we're going to really make sure that you know the difference between peak and RMS. So here we go. 2 snare drums. The second one we know already from the last tutorial. And the first snare drum is as loud as it can be, the loudest possible. Peaks at 0 dB. Let's have a listen. Okay, we can't go higher, 0 dB. Lots of peak, no RMS. Wow, -5. -5 dB, but still louder. Have a closer look at the meter. Peaks at 0. -5. You see, the average volume of the second snare drum is much louder, even if its peak is 5 dB quieter. It's very important that you stay with me guys now, because once you really get this concept about peak and RMS, it will definitely make you a better mix engineer. Our snare is not loud. Okay, so what can we do? A common thing is distortion, as the signal simply cuts at the maximum capacity of the amplifier. The signal is said to be clipping, as you can see here in this illustration. Now that the signal is clipped, you can see that we have much more headroom. We can make it louder. We have here the bit crusher, which does bit crush, but it also distorts the signal. And I distorted it quite heavily. Okay, that definitely changed the tone of the snare. I just rendered that signal down so you can see what actually happens. This is that part. Okay, that's loud. Let's open the sample editor, and now you can see we are at 0 dB, like the original one, but still louder than the original. Okay, to be fair, let's lower the volume of the newly processed snare drum so that we can compare the two. Now we have equal peak. Okay, now both have equal peak, but the sound of the first processed one is now equal to the second one. Very loud. Okay, let's go to the rendered version of the first snare drum and have a closer look at the waveform. So when we zoom in, we can see actually, again, what happened. Perfect example of a digital distortion. You see, it looks more like a square because we really distorted it on the 0 dB mark. Remember what I said, there is nothing above 0 dBFS. And of course we brought also up the content which came after the initial attack. All the harmonics, all the room gets emphasized. Let's hear the first original snare drum again. And now the processed one. -8 dB difference, but the same loudness. You see, the way we did it comes to a cost. We actually lost the transient snap, so to speak. So it's always about finding the right balance between the heavy, processed, distorted signal and the one which has a lot of more attack. Here's another example for peak and RMS. I just recorded a finger snap directly in front of the microphone, right? So we just have that small transient in the beginning. really small. It's like a metronome, not like a snap. Lots of peak, but no RMS. So when you hear this, you would say, come on, that doesn't sound like a finger snap, sounding like a light switch, you know, what you have in a room or something. So I just recorded the same finger snap a few meters far away. Huge difference. Okay guys, I didn't add any distortion. This is just the room. That's a snap. Okay guys, now you see what happened. We just gave the signal more average volume by recording it in the room. Here you have the original, the tiny, small transient. And here, that's the same signal in the room. Same peak, but sounding louder. The snap itself is also more recognizable because the room added the character to the sound. Having said that, it's more important to have the right sounds in the first place. What happens when we use the first snare drum in a groove with a 0 dB peak? Now you know what happens. The kick was still louder than the snare drum, even though the kick was 4 dB below 0. Let's use a loud one and bring the volume down, way down. Much better in my option. Let's listen to the first one. You see, the first snare drum doesn't cut through and takes all the gain. Now when we bring this whole thing up to 0 dB, our whole groove is definitely louder. You see, in the mix process, we can already sound loud. Okay, what is this shebang all about? When we go back to our first example with the snare drum, the first original snare, which had lots of peak, exactly 0 dB, and no loudness at all, and when we just try to mix that one into a track, we don't have any headroom anymore. That means the snare drum simply eats up the whole dynamic range. The 0 dB mark is crossed just by the snare drum, and the snare itself is not loud. And this is actually what all the engineers do with their tricks. They try to get more RMS out of the signal through compression, parallel compression, and distortion. And of course, you're right, get hold of the nasty peaks. Okay guys, that was a lot to swallow. If you had any problem, just rewind the thing, go to the part where it was hard to understand, because we're going to use all that shebang in the next tutorial.